Okay, hello. Uh, Hello, Jai Shri Mataji. Today we are having Dr. Ashish Pradhan with us for just an informal chat and recollections. And of course, we is the whole chat is open for any kind of discussion that we can have. Just getting together after decades, I would say. So welcome, Ashish.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the invite, Sanjay bhai.
So I think I don't know if people know Ashish Bhai, but he is a doctor. He is a medical doctor, and if I'm not wrong, you are a neurologist or you're a heart specialist. Or which is your what is your
Actually, I'm not a neurologist.
specialty?
I'm not a neurologist. I have done internal medicine for the most part, and but I have worked for many years in both cardiology. But for the past almost 2 decades now, I've been working in neurosciences. So my
Wow.
field of interest is neuroimmunology, to be precise, which is the interaction of the neuro of human nervous system with the human immune system, which is a very complex phenomenon itself. So that's my field of work for the past almost 2 decades now.
Fantastic. And we know your family. I mean, knew you from your father, Pradhan Saab, when he was leading Bombay in the early 80s, the mid 80s, I think, if I'm not wrong. And I remember only one thing about our meeting together was when Shri Mataji was very keen that musicians have to go abroad with her and perform when she does her public programs. And we were all getting ready to go. And a good big hand of help came from your family to look after us and make all the provisions for us while we were in Bombay. That is a memory. It is always stays in my mind. And of course, beyond that, you were a Yuva Shakti in Bombay leading in those times. You're very young. And it's such a pleasure that we are, in fact, connecting almost after 3.5 decades, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
Uh,
indeed, indeed.
Very, very welcome, Ashish, to this informal chat. And this is about actually, we had started this program about jewels of Sahaj Yoga, means people who are really shining on their own because of Shri Mataji, and their light is being spread all over by themselves, and this is what Shri Mataji wanted us to do. Everybody's doing his little bit. I mean, I'm doing my bit through music and movies. And now I see you as a great medical professional translating your work and showing it in a manner that people could understand both the medical side of Sahaj Yoga as well as the subtle side. And to let you know, before I give you the mic to start talking, I have been hearing your series. Now, I think you've released almost three episodes so far, and I've recently heard all of them, and I am maha impressed because you see, as we go along, we'll talk about it. I don't want to keep speaking at this moment. So, Ashish, tell us about your early times in Sahaj Yoga, how you came and what inspired you, and then how your life went and what brought you to America, and then what all you have been doing so far in these last 3.5 decades that we haven't met.
That's
Over to you.
thank you. Thanks so much for the compliment. To not as deserved, but so yeah, so we started, Papa took to Sahaj in the mid 70s actually, and mid to late 70s. And I was in school, and that's how we took to Sahaj. Actually, the family that introduced us to Sahaj was Sharayu auntie, Sharayu Gadkari, which is, Sandeep Gadkari or Madhuri Tanfi or Padmaja, their mom. And she was a practitioner even before that for many years. And so the Pradhans and the Gadkaris knew each other for actually a couple of generations before. Our grandfathers, my dad's father and Sandeep's and Madhuri's grandfather, they were neighbors in Pune many decades ago. So it's interesting how life's courses kind of intertwine. and some unseen hand, no surprises for guessing which one, actually guides our destinies. And therein lies a story as well. So, anyway, a long story then to cut short to that part. So, she introduced my father, so Sandeep's mom, Shari auntie, as I very, very beloved personality in my life. Very formative, of course. And so that's how we took to Sahaj. Those were the early years. We were in school. And Shri Mataji, of course, was this absolutely wondrous person that even at that age, nobody really fathomed. I mean, at least I didn't fathom what is Adi Shakti, what is this, what is that. You are in school, you are in this. I was in the seventh grade or something. But she was this very attractive person and very relatable. And it's something that Sanjay, I believe, Sir Yogis should, those who have never had the opportunity to meet with her, should always bear in mind. She was very relatable. She was not some remote, distant individual, some Mahaguru sitting on a throne. She was very personable, very relatable. And what I remember of those years most fondly was that children were special. We had a special consideration. And that was, being brought up in a typical Marathi, Maharashtrian family in Mumbai. And of course, we were loved. And, Indian families are big. I come from a very big family, both from my mom's and dad's side. And it was not that there was any dearth of love. But at the same time, with Shri Mataji, it was special. You realized that this was a place where people were not so much interested in your academic performance for its own sake. Mataji cared for it in a very different way. She was very proud if you did well in academics. So that also I want to make it very clear. But at the same time, you know how it is in Indian families. तुम्हारे स्कूल में रैंक क्या आया क्या आया kind of what was your rank in your school, how much percentage did you get, and that determined there was a hierarchy there, right? So whether it was spoken or not. And if you were a good student in your family, you were admired. But in Sahaj, you were admired or you were loved. I won't use the word admired, but you were loved for who you were. And that is something also that Sir Yogis, as we move along, should remember. So that's how it started. And Shri Mataji then, as the years passed, went into medical school. Then Shri Mataji established the Yuva Shakti in 1987, Nirmal Shakti Yuva Sangh. We were the founding sort of cadre, if you will. It was Papa's idea, and thereafter she basically took the idea and she formalized it in a very, very different way. And that's how you had the Yuva Shakti, and that allowed us for taking on the responsibilities. And a quick word in here that I would like to make a plug for is Shri Mataji trusted us, even at an age where maybe the then contemporary yogis were a little reticent. And that tells you about Shri Mataji's leadership style, right? Isn't it? I mean, she, say, ye bacche log hain, inko kya pata hai? We were like 17 years old at that time, something like that. Inko kya aega? Like, nahi. But Shri Mataji trusted appropriately, and to the extent necessary. We were never given charge of finances or something, but arranging public programs, helping out with pujas. We did not have, big centers at that time. Ganpati Pule had just started in 1985. That was the first time we had Ganpati Pule, and just before. So we started participating and organizing or helping out with that organization. So years passed, I finished my MBBS, and then I went on to do my MD. And my marriage, was arranged by Shri Mataji. It was completely unplanned. It happened in 93 and it was totally unplanned. I had not filled out my form or anything. There was no plan to get married. And but before I go there, I want to go back to 1986 and something for you actually, or that as it relates to you. This was 1986. It was, Mataji used to come in the morning every day in Ganpati Pule, right? There used to be two sessions, morning and evening. And that was the time when we were introduced to the Talwar family, right? Talwar uncle and auntie and you and your brother. And Talwar uncle had this absolutely magnificent personality, was like, and Delhi Sir Yoga at that time was big, but was not what it is today or what it became in the 90s, right? You had a few individuals who used to come all the time, and we knew them. We knew them very well. Like there was Nigam uncle and Rai uncle, and then of course now the Talwar family, and so Nadgirkar Kaka, of course. And then you started singing. Don't know if you remember that. And the songs were beautiful, but they were based on Hindi Bollywood tunes, and we were sitting there like we were sitting. The song is nice, his voice is beautiful, but that sounded like a Bollywood tune, and it was interesting. And then, of course, we later on found out Mataji had told you to do it, but that time it was. And I believe you introduced Hemaja Sutam Bhaje, correct? In
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes. So I remember that, and I'm like, because we are being Maharashtrians, we were used to the traditional Ganesha songs, right? Typical in Sahaj since the 70s, whatever we had heard, and we know, oh, this is different. Never heard this one before. So that was, and that was the beginning. And when we were introduced to Talwar uncle, Dr. Talwar was this very big personality, and and he gave me a very big hug. I remember, getting lost in his arms was very easy because he went to Grand Medical College in Mumbai.
Yeah,
And I went,
yeah.
when he found out, when my dad introduced me to him and said, my son is doing medical school now, we just started. Oh, which college do you go to? He said, I said, Grand Medical College. Ah, Grand Medical College. And I didn't imagine that somebody who was such a renowned practitioner, a gynecologist and obstetrician in Delhi, actually would have an association with Mumbai. And he said, no, no, I went to GMC. I'm a GM site. And that came as such a, it was a moment of pride for me as well, little me with absolutely, like, and when you start medical school, people who have actually graduated and have reached certain levels of proficiency, you look upon them practically as demigods, right? Because it's just how the profession works, and I guess any profession works that way, medicine even more so that was that. I just wanted to make a reference to that, because I don't know if you remember, but we remembered, and we remembered your
Oh,
singing and a very deep, resonant voice. You're used to Maharashtrian voices and singing, but this was very different. And you could see that Mataji was bringing in, when it started, basically, the group that Baba Mama brought together, and then she formalized the name, and everything happened. But before that, I don't know if most yogis know this, but singing in Sahaj or music in Sahaj was mostly confined to professional artists who used to be paid for their time, and they performed. You had Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki, Pandit Jasraj, and all those greats of those times of the 70s and 80s. Ajit Kadkade was introduced to Sahaj by my father, and then of course you had even programs with Aarti Anklikar and the host of them, and then in
yes.
Delhi you had others as well. So that was the understanding of music in Sahaj at that time, and Mataji introduced Nirmal Sangeet Sarita by way of Baba Mama, and then it changed the complexion of
Yes.
what it meant to have music in Sahaj. So that was an interesting part of the evolution, I would say, of Sahaj programs and it started, I would say, in Ganpati Pule because of the annual gathering. So anyway, back to my life story then. 93, I got married. Had not even finished my MD, and then uh, Mataji said, no, no, wait after you finish. So in 94, I finished my MD. Sorry, 93, I got married. 94, finished my MD. And then I was ready to come. And she said, no, no, wait for me. I'm coming to India, and come with me. And come with me back to Italy. My wife is from Italy. And I don't know if you know this, Sanjay Bhai, but you know who helped me purchase my ticket to go with Shri Mataji on that Lufthansa flight from Frankfurt to Milan. So it was Delhi, Frankfurt, Milan. It was you. You so because
I
Mataji,
was
yeah,
looking
because you
to
had your
travel to
travel
Mataji's
agency.
also. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was her
you
travel agent.
Exactly. You were a travel agent, and then so Mataji basically said, just make sure you work with Sanjay. She told my father, not me. Make sure that no, and be on the same flight. Make sure that Ashish is on the same flight as I am, so I can. He comes with me. So we worked with you, and it was kind of a bit of a challenge to get, because the flight was overbooked or something. And I'm like, I'm stressed out. Now what happens? But you managed to get me on the same flight. So it was from Delhi. So my
Yeah.
journey outside of India, as I left India, actually you have played a very vital role in it, or a very important
Oh,
role.
I
I don't know
didn't,
if
I didn't realize that.
yeah, yeah. Life's journeys, again, it's very interesting. So, the first international ticket we ever bought was with your help. And so anyway, came to Milan and to Cabela thereafter, and then spent about 2.5 years with Shri Mataji. Stayed in Cabela, and then whenever she used to come to India, came to India. And then in 97, I came to Canada on a fellowship program, postdoctoral fellowship program. Before that, I was selected for residency program in Milan. Had passed the entrance exam in the University of Milan, but no residencies were easily available. And
Mm.
Shimataji said to me that, you will see nothing will work out for you in Italy. And then came to Canada, did my fellowships, joined the pharmaceutical industry. I was not really interested there at that point doing my residencies. Then I've been in the industry for the past almost now 25 years, and lived in Canada. And thereafter, we went to the UK. We lived in London for a couple of years. And then we came to the US. And then in US, I've lived on both East and West Coasts. I worked for different companies. So I worked for cardiovascular medicine in my initial years, and in neuroimmunology, and particularly in this area now for the past almost 15, 20 years. So that's been my life's journey. It's been very interesting. It's been full of learnings, but that's that. Hopefully that answers your question.
So here we are talking to Dr. Ashish Pradhan, who was I would say, the first of the lot of Yuva Shakti in India. Shri Mataji, in fact, inaugurated the Yuva Shakti itself in those times, which was mid 70s, early 70s. That's when you came in. Of course, I came in around early 80s. And then, of course, we joined hands with our association, your association with music, and my association with my first time into getting experience with your father. I have some really fond memories of Senior Pradhan Sahab, and it never goes away, because I've got some videos of his where he's talking about me and praising me about my music in front of Shri Mataji. And this was being prompted by Shri Mataji. And you know how she used to control everything. I mean, she made me a musician, and then she made me a travel agent. And the musician was traveling with her and also booking her ticket. And at one time, I was responsible for taking Sahaj Yogis from India to Kabela. And all the Sahaj Yogis used to come from all over the world to Ganpati Pule. She asked me to make arrangements for their tickets and their arrivals and everything in India. So I had a short duration of about a year or two um, doing those services for Sahaja Yoga. And it was amazing those times when we were having so much of one-to-one, with Shri Mataji. It was so easy to talk to her, and that she was so, like you said, she was so relatable. But I would like to ask you, Ashish, what were those times of relatability you had with Shri Mataji? Because you must have had some times when Shri Mataji must have asked you to do things, and that what you're still doing is something what she's asked you to do. I'm sure this is part of what she wanted you to do. So obviously you're following that path the way I am doing it through my music and through my movies. But I would like you to talk about that a bit to us. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and one could, talk literally for hours about it. But with Shri Mataji, it was, how does one say it? It's very, very, at one end, it's very challenging. At one end, it's almost very, very easy. That when you were in her presence, she knew you were going to be awed by her, and you rightly should be. You. I mean, you are in the presence of God. I mean, how can you not be awed? And yet, she would make it easy for you, and that was the art, the divine art of putting you at ease. How it happened. So I always relate this experience, and people can take from it what they feel is appropriate. I'll try to summarize it. So I had many one-on-one times with her as I was growing up, particularly Yuva Shakti, it started in the mid 80s, by the way. And but never like that absolute exclusiveness, right? There were maybe one or two people around sometimes. Yet I had some moments with her one-on-one, but not that much. So I moved to Kabela, as I said, in 1995, and she brought me with her. And few days later, she was an early morning person. She used to get up very early in the morning. And I'm kind of now serving her, right? I'm the person attending, as one would say. And it was early hours in the morning in Kabela, and stillness of the morning. Sir CP is sitting there, and the tea service was to be taken inside, right? So there was the tea service, and she had a beautiful kettle with very hot milk in it. Tea kettle with a flask of milk. That was the container, and of course a couple of cups, and for Sir CP and Shri Mataji, of course. And so they took it inside, and now I'm pouring it out. Now, as I pour the tea out, and then I reach for the container that has the milk, and it's a silver container. It was a silver tea set, and as soon as I touched it, Sanjay ji, I realized it is extremely hot. It's scalding hot, right? It's very, very hot. And I'm sitting like inches away from Srimataji, right? About to pour that milk into her, and she's watching. And Sir CP is watching, and there is nobody around except the two of them, and it's completely still. It's like all attention is on Ashish. And that's what.
Oh, wonderful.
It's a well, wonderful, but hang on. I mean, wonderful, yes, but it comes with its own stress, right? It's positive stress. And so I pick it up and I realize I'm going to drop this. If I hold it, I'm going to drop this because this is very hot. My fingers are going to get singed. It is that hot. This is boiling milk that had been poured in. It's a metal container and it had no insulation. So now I get into a little bit of an ego. I'm saying to myself, I'm born in a Kshatriya family, right? I can take this pain for my guru. I mean, what is this? This is just, something is a little bit hot. So what? My fingers get burned. Big deal. And where is my bhakti? Where is my strength? I have to rise to this occasion. This thoughts kind of go through my head, and it's like a little bit of pride, I think, I guess, and false pride, of course. So I pick it up again. I can't hold it. It's not possible. And if I had persisted, if I had dropped it, it was probably going to splash over her. I mean, I was sitting literally inches close to her. And then she did uh, what only Mataji could do. What she did was, as she was sitting, she took the pallu of her sari, right? And she was sitting like this, and she went around and she took the pallu of her sari and she took it out. And then she reached over and she wrapped it around the ear of the karaf, right? She wrapped it around it and she held her finger on it so that the sari did not come out or did not come off. That pallu did not come off, the part of it. And she said to me in Marathi, ata hota, which means now you can pour it. So she insulated that ear so that my finger would not burn. That, in essence, is Shri Mataji. I never tire of sharing that episode, because you can take away from it whatever you want, to the extent that you want. This is how she nurtured Sahaja Yoga. What we believe is through the pallu of her sari, that she took her in her fold, in all of us in her folds, and that was just an experience, one of them. And then over the months and years, had so many. Then I had lots of one-on-one time with her. Was very fortunate. And what again brought back the fact every time was her almost everydayness as an Indian housewife, as a mother, as a grandmother, as a great grandmother, and of course, wife to Sir CP Srivastava. And All of that was just amazing to note. Her level of involvement with her family, as well as the larger family of Sahajogis, and her ability to be able to balance, right? Uh, she could give of herself completely to her own family, and she gave of more than herself to her Sahajogi family, the family that she had created. Uh, and that is something that is impossible to describe. But I'm hoping that, people such as ourselves, that like you bring on this on your podcast, can share that Mataji's message to us, that I took away from it at least, was that it is in the everydayness of what we do is that we can reflect the inner divinity, right? It doesn't have to be something spectacular, it doesn't have to be something otherworldly. You can be very worldly, and despite your worldliness, you manifest that divinity. And that was Sri Mataji. Saw her interacting with the VIPs of the world, ministers and industrialists and people of social prominence and importance. And I also saw her interacting with villagers. I mean, literally villagers. And it was exactly the same. It was exactly the same, but her language would change. She would talk in a different language, because the language that people would understand at that level, because she could relate to anybody, right? Being the wife of one of India's most prominent and senior diplomats ever, to somebody who had participated in India's freedom movement and knew the DNA of the country like nobody did. What did Gandhiji stand for? What was his message? What is India? What is our culture? How should Indians respect it? One of the things, by the way, I picked up from her very quickly was she absolutely, I mean, absolutely did not like Indians dissing India. That infuriated her. If Indians criticized India or Indianness or anything about India,
Oh,
no, no, no. That was not allowed. So I learned, this is where I would want to end at least this part of the answer to your question is, I learned patriotism from her. What is patriotism? Patriotism is not jingoism, right? You in America, if you live, and it's a beautiful country, I am a citizen of this place, and I appreciate it for its greatness and vastness and everything, but there is certain element of jingoism, right? It's like our country is the greatest, blah blah blah. Mataji was not a jingoist. She was not an apologist either. She accepted India's and society's flaws for what they were, but she worked actively for against it, to rectify those flaws, to work. You work through the system, you work within the system. It's how the kundalini comes up, right? It comes from within, not outside, from within, and then it grows. The brahma nadi goes within the sushumna nadi, and that's how the chakras are brought in and everything changes. So her personal life and her personal way of working was exactly that. She understood Indian society's problems, the casteism, the superiority complex that some societies individuals have, that brings them the sense of self entitlement. She understood all of that. She accepted it. She worked to mitigate it, but she never liked Indians criticizing India. No, I mean, Westerners or somebody from outside of India, she would listen, but she would defend the country in her own way. But Indians, if they went against India, you were practically signing your death warrant. Very, very careful. And people would not realize it. They would get in the flow. Yes, yes, Mataji, this is a problem. This is a problem. That's happening. That's this. And she would then say, okay, but then what are you doing about it?
correct.
This is your mother. You don't criticize your mother.
Yes.
So that was her. That
This is
was, so I
one thing,
learned so many things,
Ashish.
sorry,
Yeah.
personally, professionally, but was amazing.
Yeah, this is one lesson I also learned about Shri saying that we should learn more to appreciate and not criticize. And that she said that appreciation made you more open to having more compassion and more understanding about a person or his art or whatever anybody is doing. And instead of criticizing means that you're closing your heart and you're wanting to pull up pull down another person. So, like in Sahaja Yoga, also I learned this art very much from her, because one of us gets very talented with whatever mother has given us. See, everything mother has given us. So someone has a little more talent than the other, and somebody is doing much better in his field of art or work or profession than the other. But there is this general tendency that we criticize that person more than usually you criticize anybody else. And I've faced that very much because of my art of music and popularity of my bhajans, and then my movie making right now, as I've been sharing a lot about the awards that have been coming for my Mahalakshmi Path.
That's an
But
amazing achievement. Yeah.
oh, and the amount of criticism one has to face in the early years,
Yeah.
when I was doing music, and I spoke to Shri Mataji about it, and Shri Mataji said, if anybody criticizes you so much that you start feeling like crying or you feel hurt in your heart, forgive him. She said,
Mm.
"What?" She said, Become like me, become like the mother. Have compassion, have patience, have forbearance. Everything will happen all right for you. Because I am there and I know what is correct and what is not. And always use vibrations. So these are some things that got embedded in my mind. And that is why, despite so much opposition to what I've been trying to do with my movies, there's so much opposition and criticism about this should not have been done, this is the wrong way to do this, that. Mother has blessed it with over 114 awards. I just can't believe how Shri Mataji just keeps on blessing, and so many vibrations are being shared now throughout the world to spread Sahaja Yoga through music, through films. But you know how it is was Ashish, in the early years, how she was working on us. You've seen that with your own eyes, and
Yeah.
I mean,
And
our own development was all because of her.
the first program of Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki that was organized in Mumbai, uh, Gregor Uncle's book was to be released, The Advent. And just for the sake of historical accuracy,
Yeah.
for those who might be interested, when you mention music, and Shri Mataji suggested, why don't we get some marquee artist, as an event, and it was held in Sundarbai Hall in Marine Lines in Mumbai. And Vijay Merchant, the ex-cricketer, he was to be the chief guest of honor, and Papa suggested Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki. Mataji immediately agreed, and so the program was on, and Shri Mataji was on the stage, and Vijay Merchant was speaking this that, and then Mataji gave a talk and gave self-realization. It was a public program of sorts, and Vijay Merchant ji, then he released The Advent in Mumbai. This was 79, and thereafter he left. Vijay Merchant left, and Pandit Abhishek Jitendra Abhisheki was to perform, and he sat with his tanpura behind him, tabla, everything. Purushottam Valavalkar was accompanying him on the harmonium, Nana Moreji was on the tabla, and then some Sahajogis started leaving. They started leaving the hall. I was a young kid, I'm listening, and my dad is like, where are you going? And some of them said, well, Mataji's talk is over, we are leaving. And my dad, because he was into music from his young days, so he used to attend Savai Gandharva in Pune, and so he was into music in a big way. Anyway, the point is, my father was like, "So what kind of people are these?" Like, Pandit Jitendra Abhisheki is about to sing, and Mataji is sitting on the stage. Where are you going? Where are you? Where are you leaving? He said, no, no, it's okay. Then, so music had no place in Sahaja, in the collective consciousness at that time. And from there on to where the pendulum has swung, is just amazing. One thing I think, I'm sure, Sanjay, you also have probably noticed, is that, and people ask sometimes me this question, how did she Mataji, because she, Mahasaraswati herself, how did she look at music, right? How did she, because we had so many music concerts in Sahaj with professionals. And I have always said this has been my observation, to the extent maybe others agree, others disagree, I don't know, I'm just sharing with you, is that if you were to accompany her back to her house in the car after the program, after if it's a post puja or a post evening, or the next day in the morning, when she would be discussing things, how the evening went, this, that, what one noticed, and I think this is important for Sahajogis to know, is she never critiqued the performance. She never said, "Oh, the alap was done this way," or the presentation was this way, or the drut was different, or maybe the tarana went this way, or the presentation of this note or that note, the wadis were, that's were that. She could have critiqued it anyway. She was a trained musician herself, besides being Adishakti in the Maya of this incarnation. Her own elder sister, as everybody knows, was a professional artist, and everybody in their family was a musician, right? All of them. Baba Mama was a trained musician, and also Mataji never critiqued the performance, never once. She would say two things. One is sancharla angamate, त्यांच्यात संचार झाला. She would say that something happened to that musician in that moment, and as though it was something else took over. And the most important thing she would say was, you heard her comment was, how the artist was enjoying his or her own artistry. Remember that? That's what she would focus on. She would enjoy the enjoyment of the artist, how that
Right.
artist was lost in his or her own creation, whether it was Bodhaditya Mukherjee, or whether it was Debu Chaudhary ji playing sitar, or whether it was somebody singing, or in people like yourselves. Like, what she would say was, look how they enjoyed their own performance, how they were enjoying themselves. And therein lies the story. The story is not about being a music critic or a critic of any kind. The story, from Shrimataji's point, always was, look at how that individual is enjoying his or her own creativity. And that is what we have to enjoy. It may not be at the grade, at the level somebody singing. Everybody can't be Pandit Bhimsen Joshi or a Kishori Amonkar or a Kumar Gandharva, right? But that's not the point. That is actually not the point. The point
True.
is,
Very
as
true.
Sahaj Yogis, you enjoy the enjoyment of the creator, and that in a
Agree.
way is the story of creation, right? What is creation? As Shri Mataji said, that the creator wanted to see its own reflection, so it
Correct.
created. That's it. Otherwise, it was complete in itself. It just had this desire to create. Why? To see its own reflection. And I always felt that that is where Shri Mataji, in the music performance, it's a metaphor for creation, that she is seeing her own creation in the enjoyment of the performer, regardless of how Sahajogis might have perceived it. And that's the moral of the story. So even when you're making films, for example, and to the point that, what is this movie, what is this, blah blah blah, it doesn't matter. What Sri Mataji, what would matter to her is Sanjay enjoying the creation of that film, yes or no? So if Sanjay has enjoyed creating it, that's all that matters. And Sahajogis have a very hard time understanding it, because we look at it from a lens of our own lens. Mataji saw it from the lens of the Atma, right? Being Paramatma, to see the lens of the Atma. And if we can develop that, I think Sahaj will conquer the world. It will. It just will. Because that's the lens we need to have. But that's a lens that is very difficult, because the first thing you notice, you try to do anything different, is criticism. No, why are you doing this? Mataji,
Yeah, that's
that, Mataji, did Mataji say this? I said, well, Mataji didn't say it in as many words, but if you expected her to lay out every little thing out, I mean, that's not appropriate either. Then you have not understood the meaning of self-realization. And it is self-realization. You realize your own creativity. And she enjoyed that artistry of Sahajogis in whichever field of endeavor, whether it is music, whether it is the fine arts, performing arts, academia, research, whatever you do, right? UC Rai, Dr. UC Rai, and the research that he conducted with, that when Deepak Chugh was his student and a couple of others, and the work that was done in Lady Hardinge Medical College in Delhi.
you
I
were
see
also
that,
there.
huh?
You were also part of that.
No, I was not part of it. I was
You
still a
were.
medical student. No, I was not a part of it. But it
Acha.
was done because it
Okay.
was done by Dr. UC Rai, and when he was the head of the
Uh-huh.
department,
Okay.
and so that happened. But I always said to Deepak, and to whomsoever cared to listen, is that thesis that was published by under Dr. UC Rai's guidance, and that was done by Deepak and couple of others at Lady Hardinge Medical College, probably the most blessed medical thesis in human history. Because you mentioned it so many times. Three students
Yes.
have got their, MDs in Sahaja Yoga. Three students have got their MDs in Sahaja Yoga. Every time she would say it, and I used to tell Deepak, I feel so insanely jealous of you, because it's like, it's mentioned so many times. It was on blood pressure and bronchial asthma, in hypertension and bronchial asthma. And then of course it was Dr. Rai wrote a nice book called Medicine Enlightened. But that's the thing, she always encouraged creativity, as long as it was within maryadas, and it adhered to Sahaj principles. That's important too. And as long as that was the case, it was fine. And that's why, Sanjay, I have reached a point in my life where I have stopped really worrying about what Sahajogis think. Because otherwise you are always catering to a denominator. Basically,
Yeah.
just her word needs to get out, her the uniqueness of her mission, that human
Yes.
history has never seen before, uh, needs to get out, and through whatever medium it gets out, as long as it is done in a dharmic fashion, where there is no expectation of reward to the individual who creates it. A group of creators, nothing is done by one person. These all are team efforts, right? I'm sure your films are team efforts. It's perfectly fine.
Yes, it is. It is. It is. And you know what, Ashish, when you talk of this, what you're really doing today, which I saw from your podcast, is so amazing. The knowledge that you have been able to put together so articulately, so wonderfully in that fashion that a layman can actually listen to it. Of course, slowly he has to imbibe and absorb all this medical aspects, but surely I'm sure that this has a huge amount of divine knowledge and experience that one can get from what you're doing. I mean, I am one of your big fans. I'm not joking. The way you have put forth these presentations, they are so amazing. And you know what? I want to share with you something. Very recently, about 2 months back, a very, very senior Saj Yogi, I had gone to him with my 108th award for the movie. It was the Bharat Gaurav Puraskar from the Indian government for a movie made on women empowerment, which
Wow.
is, of course, Mahalakshmi Path. It was such an honor. I carried that award all the way. I'm not going to take his name, maybe he doesn't want it to be mentioned, but I, I had a whole day, whole evening with him, and we had puja in his house, and he was one of the first persons who established Sahaj Yoga in Pune. And we all slept through that night. And the morning at 4 o'clock, he woke up, he woke me up, and he told me, Sanjay, I had a dream, and it was so real. Shri Mataji was in that dream, and she was saying that I am very happy with Sanjay and the movie that he's made. And please tell him to make a movie on my life.
Wow.
Please tell him to make a web series or a tele series in which he covers everything: my life, Sahaj Yoga, the medical aspects, and the miracles that have happened in people's lives. And this was so clear to him. And then he said, I asked her that Shri Mataji has already been bogged down by so much of problems in making the film. So much he has to ask for, and he's not able to manage so easily. And she says, tell him that I will help him.
Mhm. Wow.
Now, this is just 2 months old. And I just put together a team and we were working on this. And I even spoke to Sandeep Gadkari. I was just happened to be in Kapela and during this Sastra Puja. I said, whether this is a dream, it is something that I feel she's wanting me to do because she's happy with what I have done so far. And so I was planning this. I put up a team together for about 10, 15 of us. We are doing research. We're going into the details of how we do it.
Mm-hmm.
And with the help of my dear elder brother, Yogi Majanji, I told him to lead this team. And because he's written so many books, and I think he will be the best person to guide us and show us how we could do this properly. But what I observed, and I want that to be a part of this series, is what you have done. I mean, I want you to come on board on our advisory board of suggesting how we can introduce this in this series so that we have that aspect to the medical aspect of how the body and the subtle body relate to each other and how these chakras, when they open up during our rising of the Kundalini, how they are impacting our organs and our plexuses in a way that the deities that command that. They are actually giving us a new personality. We are getting transformed, So my idea is to call this series Transformation. And we could do half an hour episodes, but we want to bring in a few minutes as a flashback, going back as to explaining the concept and
Mm-hmm.
explaining the advent of Shri Mataji.
Mm-hmm.
Also, how the story of the miracle goes on. I don't know. I'm sharing this with you as for the first time because I was so enamored by your talk that I said, I'm going to ask Ashish in this talk itself whether you will be party to help us in putting together that in our series.
Absolutely.
Over to you.
I first of all, amazing that the narration of the dream is amazing. I also had a couple of very interesting uh, experiences as well. I think Shri Mataji is acting through a different medium now. Uh, can feel it. It's not just a thought process. It's a feeling. So kudos first of all, and yes, we'll be happy to do it. I think where I would what I would like to mention, since you asked this question, is, and also one of the drivers for sentient evolution, is that Sahaja Yoga started in the 70s. Mataji was active right up to the 2000s, and her Vani, her recordings through as has been recorded through and now enshrined through Nirmal Vidya and everything that has happened thereafter. That's for posterity. Needless to add, it's like the Bhagavad Gita and things of that nature. But where we need to go is society has changed, right? Society has changed. Society's values have changed. In the 70s, the issue was, as far as negativity was concerned, was more related to gurus and these people, Babajis and stuff like that, and they were creating this problem. I would say the menace that they pose to society is nothing compared to where we are today with media and what media can, the havoc that it can play with our lives, particularly social media. And I've tried to speak to some of that in the seventh episode or the sixth episode, I forget which one. But in this series, and the reason for that is, one day, uh, in the 70s, when my father had just taken to Sahaj, people kept on talking about negativity, this, that. And my father was a very logically thinking person. And he didn't understand what is this negativity, because by nature he was a very positive person, as you know. And what is this negativity business? I don't understand it. And he had access to Shri Mataji, very direct access. It was a different time in Sahaj. So one day he asked Shri Mataji, Mataji, Sahaja Yogis keep talking about negativity. What exactly is negativity? I don't understand. And Mataji gave him a definition, which I think is a working definition for all Sahaja Yogis, or should be. She said, anything that takes your attention away from God, that's negativity. So that's a very simple, straightforward definition, she said, of negativity. And I believe that social media in many ways is the epitome. It does a lot of good, by the way, but it is so distracting to the human attention that the transformation, if you want, if that's the title of the series or where we want to go, it should work at two levels. One is at the human level, where human society has been transformed in the way it thinks, the way it operates, particularly after the mass introduction of the internet and everything it has brought, how societies are functioning, our values are changing, they have already changed. How we interact with each other, right? Look at us. We are what you're sitting in Delhi, I'm sitting here, like on the other side of the planet, but we are talking in real time. So that's the good part of it. That's technology that is empowering, enabling, doing in a way what divine would appreciate it should do. But there's also the other side of it, right? It's not great. And where we need to go as Sahaja Yogis or Sahaja Yoga as an organization probably is to be able to help human society navigate these challenging times, because the competition for attention is huge. And where we are struggling is to find that space in that within that competitive space for the introduction of Shri Mataji in their lives. How do you bring that in? How do you bring that in that thing? There's a device, there's a phone, there is this, there's that. You get text messages, you're on WhatsApp groups, everything. And this is all self-inflicted, right? The divine did not create this. These are all human creations. And I mean, we literally landed on the moon, if technology is a paradigm, way before there was introduction of the mass internet. And so it is not necessarily, that it precludes evolution. And this is not part of our spiritual evolution. This is just a part of a technological. AI is going to change our lives in many ways now. Can debate whether it will completely transform the way we do, or it, but there is no debate that it will significantly impact the way we go about our lives. So these are transformative changes. Not all of them are good. And how do you thread that needle is what this series should be about. If that can happen, now we will have achieved, or maybe not achieved, but maybe served something that will help Sahaj get, and Mataji's message across. Because these are the challenging times. And to a large extent, also one of the reasons why I think sentient evolution was something that we felt like doing, because we are still stuck in the 70s. Our messaging is still 70s and 80s. It is not, it needs to be brought into modern times,
Modern times. Yes.
right? Even Indian society has gone from, I come to India every year, and every year I come, I feel like a stranger in my own land. It's like, whoa, this is not different. This is different. Many ways good, but in many ways, this is not the culture and the heritage that Mataji spoke about, or that she was so proud about. So transformation. So all eager to help, whichever modest way I can be a part of this will be an honor. But I believe that the purpose has to be that, how do you, Mataji's genius, if you will, was to translate the teachings of Sri Ram and Sri Krishna and all the great saints, all the great incarnations of the Adiguru Dattatreya principle into the 20th century, right? She could have used old metaphors, but she used the metaphor of a mic not being connected to the mains, or a telephone not connected to the mains, and you are keeping dialing God, 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 but if that instrument is not connected. So she brought in these technology-based metaphors, but for the 70s, and they were perfectly appropriate because these were the technologies of the day. How do you move that needle that the younger generation, and this is where I would stop speaking at this point, which is the younger generation in Sahaj somehow seems to be a little bit distant or removed, or to varying degrees. They are very engaged in some ways they are not. How do we get them engaged? Because they know the language, they know the idiom, they know the syntax, they know the metaphor of their generation. How do we get them engaged and how do we reach out to them in an era where the competition for their attention is coming from 10 different ways, which even we did not have?
Correct.
Therein lies the need for maybe a series like that transformation that you are speaking about. It can do wonders, absolute wonders.
Yes, and I think we have to find, by her help, by her desire, that she fulfills it through us. We find a way together and we'll team up. And inshallah, I was saying that in future times to come, God give us long lives and give us the strength to try and bring her vision forth to the changing times today, and that she can be happy wherever she is to see that we are able to manage that gracefully. Thank you. And so, Ashish, I would say today's session has been wonderful with your words of wisdom and with your experience sharing. It has been absolutely, I would say, fills my heart, fills our heart. And I hope that we can all who are watching this program can gain something out of this. And I will not stop here with you. We are going to have one more session later, maybe a second episode with you, because there's lots to know from you with your
Happy to.
35 years that you've been away from us, and that there must be so many experiences you must have had. But now, since I think we are nearing about an hour of conversation, we will uh, we will end here with a word of thanks and gratitude that you joined us today. And with this, I'm also inviting you to come on board our advisory panel for this
Sure.
movie we are planning series. Hopefully, something will come up as we will go on discussing on this. Something beautiful will come out of it. So, thank you very much, Ashish. God bless you. And wonderful connecting with you after so many years.
Absolutely.
Let's
This
keep
was
this
when
connection.
when you invited, I was like so excited. I'm like, wow, this is just amazing. No, thank you again, and very very kind of you. Thanks for the kind words, and no, anything for Shri Mataji. That's all I will say. Anything for her. You just say it, and we are here to help. And by the way, lots of very talented yogis in the Bay Area, in the US as well, and we can bring them aboard as well. And that's a whole story in itself. How things worked out
Oh,
very easy
yes,
for us to.
yes.
So it's just you express and desire, and takshan, as Mataji used to say. You just express your desire. I'm there, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma, but you have to be ready. And looks like
Yes.
it's there, and your many congratulations on your phenomenal successes. This is so good, and but let's
Right.
keep it going, and onward and forward. Gentlemen.
Thank you. And I'm looking forward to hearing your rest of the series. I'm really
Sure, sure.
looking
Thank
forward.
you. I look forward to your
God
feedback as well.
bless.
Bye.
Thank you. God bless and Jai Shri Mataji.
Jai Shri Mataji. Jai Shri Mataji.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We can leave now.